Hi guys, we're the Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime cast here on Broadway, talking to the West End cast. Very excited. We have a bag of questions, and we're going to take turns drawing. We each have a bag of questions, take turns drawing out a question and answering them and getting to know each other. And this is...
Hi, I'm Enid Graham. I play Judy here on Broadway.
And I'm Tyler. I play Christopher.
Andrew Long. I played Ed Boone. I don't have my name on my shirt, so I'm surprised I remember.
I'm Sean, and I play Christopher here on the West End.
I'm Nick Tennant, and I play Ed here in London.
And I'm Simon Stevens, and I wrote the play both in Broadway and in the West End. New York.
So, should we start off with the question? We're going first?
Yeah,
you go first.
They seem awfully eager for us.
What moments do you think audiences are most surprised by? That's for me to answer.
Most surprised by.
That Judy's. Oh, what can I? Oh, how much can I give away?
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I don't know.
Okay, most surprised by. I think the structure of the play is probably surprising to people. You know, if you don't know anything about it and you just sit down to watch a story, you know, you have to work really hard to piece together the sort of fractured way the story is told. I think also, like, say in the second act, the quick switches, you know, from thing to thing, you know, I think it's very successfully surprising because, you know, it's wonderful how it mirrors Christopher's thoughts, you know, and how they change. And so I don't know, that's the first thing off the top of my head that people probably find surprising. Yeah. Without giving away too many plot points.
Maybe I should.
I don't know if that matters.
Yeah. Your turn.
Do we answer that question? Yeah. No, very good. I'm surprised by Enid's capacity to answer that question intelligently without giving a single spoiler. That was really brilliant. I tell you what, because I've sat in the audience, which is, have you guys sat in the audience as well?
Yes. Yeah.
As an audience, so we can talk from our audience perspective. Yeah. The bit that surprises me most, you know, and I kind of know what happens in. I shouldn't really, right? But the bit that surprises me every time I've watched it in London, on Broadway, and on tour here, there's a moment where Christopher is nearly killed by a tube train, and every single time I watch it, I think, oh my God, they're going to kill Christopher. Christopher's going to die. Christopher's going to die. I'm so convinced that he's going to die. It takes me by surprise every time.
Yeah, I will say that that's the moment my children who have seen the show 3 times always went down onto the floor in fear.
You do a question? Or do you want to answer this?
No, let's do a question. Let's move on.
Yeah, shall we?
Yeah.
We've got really fancy cards.
Do you guys draw out of a bag or just us?
I think they have a bag too.
I think we have, not a bag, but we have questions.
We've got a table.
You don't get a bag on the West End.
Do you have a favorite audience interaction story from the stage door you can share with us?
Yeah, I think so.
Did they answer this one first?
Oh, they have to answer it.
Yeah.
We have a favorite audience. I don't think I have a favorite one, but we do get people at the stage door, usually that are parents with an autistic child, or there is somebody who is on the spectrum in some way, and they really just want to thank us, more than just say, oh, we enjoyed the play. Thank us for just telling a story that they don't normally see, and they're really glad that it's shared with so many people. So that's always pretty humbling when that happens. And I reckon there's at least once a week there's someone there who just wants to say, thank you so much for that, because that's how I feel. So, yeah.
Well, I've got one from Oh yeah, so I've got one. I met a kid who was American and had seen the show on the West End with his dad when they were over in London, and had loved it. And he was, I think, 10 years old and was autistic. And they'd come back to London about 5 months later and insisted that his mum and his sister would come and see the play, because they hadn't seen it the first time. So they all came, and then afterwards he came to have a little talk after at stage door, and he said that the reason he wanted so desperately to bring his mum and his sister was that because it was the first thing he'd ever seen on stage where he felt like he was being represented. And he said to me, he was like, "You see what I see, and I want them to be able to see it, but I can't do it the way you can do it." And this kid was like 10 years old, but just had such a wisdom about it all. It was just really wonderful, and that stayed with me for a long time.
Yeah, oh, wonderful.
What about New York?
I had a moment just last week when we were collecting for Broadway Cares right now. So I was at the exit of a theater with my red bucket collecting money. And a gentleman came around the corner and just locked eyes with me. And then his eyes welled up with tears. And then he tucked his chin and started to cry. And I just reached out and hugged him. And he silently wept on my shoulder for about 15 seconds. Then he kind of gathered his breath, looked at me quickly, and just walked out the door. We never even said a word.
Oh,
Wow.
you had one as well. You had one as well, Tyler.
I think it's always the mothers who get me at the stage door. The mothers who have like a son and just the same story about like understanding like another part of their son that they never could see before. It's always it's a special time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also this show more than any other that I've been involved in or B know of gets a reaction like that where people feel compelled to want to say something to the actors or to the creatives involved, which is really wonderful that it makes people feel like they want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't feel sort of, like bored with your job or something, and then you have an encounter like that, it definitely reminds you that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should go to the question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take one from your bag, Tyler. Take a question from your bag.
Lighten it up here. Let's see. What do you think your character learns throughout the show? I should have an immediate answer for this. A lot of things. Well, I mean, I guess what I learn throughout the show is I learned from Christopher. I'm twisting this question. I learned from Christopher about forging ahead and never giving up and realizing that despite the difficulties that he may have or may not understand himself, is that he can do these things, and he believes in himself more than I could ever believe in myself. I feel like, which I'm learning from Christopher how to be confident in myself. I think.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the things that really moves me about the play is how it's a story of parenting in lots of ways, and I feel that my character learns how to be a better parent in the course of the play. I'm a mom myself, and so I know how hard, really impossible it is to be a parent, and certainly with challenges like Judy and Ed have with Christopher and lack of resources and things, that just makes it even harder. But anytime you're a parent, I think you come across the difficulty of the job and how you're always going to fail and fail and fail, and then through the course of the play, Judy doesn't give up, keeps trying to be a parent even with all of her flaws, and then by the end, Judy and Ed are working together and learning how to be better parents and be there for Christopher. And I think that's one of the things that parents of all kinds respond to in the show, because we all recognize that struggle, and it's nice to see it portrayed very honestly, I think, on stage.
Yeah. Ditto. It was exactly what I was thinking about, learning how to be a better parent. Yeah.
Yeah, I would completely. I think if there's one thing that learns, is that it is hard, and it's okay to admit that it's hard, and being there is more important than trying to get it right.
Yes. Yeah.
I think, even though I think there's still a way to go. It's very hard. Families are hard.
It's not necessarily about being even a better parent. It's just accepting that we're all a bit broken as parents.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. I mean, we can't ever be perfect.
And a huge pressure from outside to be perceived as being successful at being a parent and successful at being a husband. And it's just, being there is very important. And I think he learns that the patience of being there is really important, I think.
And I mind those struggles, having a 4-month-old baby at home. Get home. The wife just hands me the baby and disappears. I'm okay.
I've got a 10-month-old at home.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah, still the same thing. Yeah.
2 short days are brutal for the wife.
Let's do one from our table. Okay. Okay. For the British actors, first of all, how did you prepare for your role before you began performing in Curious Incident?
Well, I wanted to learn on a basic thing. I wanted to learn as much of the script as I possibly could when I was auditioning. So I knew the majority of the play actually by the time I did my 5th round or whatever it was. By the time we started rehearsals, I kind of knew it all because I wanted all that information to be instantly accessible for me when I was starting off trying to learn to be Christopher, because his thoughts work at a pace that I would never have been able to keep up with early on through rehearsals. So the last thing I wanted to have to worry about was, just the logistics of script in hand and thinking about lines and things. So that's where I started, was just getting all the information in so that I could have the speed of thought, because I knew that was such an important characteristic of Christopher's. And then with the rest of it, we were really lucky and got to meet some really great people, and went to this amazing school called Treehouse in London for autistic children, and got to just meet some really great people and great teachers, and just try and be a sponge and just soak up as much as they could possibly give us in the time that we had with them. And then just find out through rehearsals how that becomes useful. Yeah,
meeting some parents from that school I found very very useful, and just talking to them, and then slowly finding the way in, really. During performance, I think I really began to get it. I thought, oh, I know what this is. Rehearsals I found not frustrating, but because it's so precise, and you're stepping into a role that had already been made, you had to learn so much stuff, and that was fine. That was the nature of it. But I really made it my own in performance, I think. But talking to the parents, certainly.
Some of the processes in New York.
Yes, we similarly had we have a school called CUSAC here that we visited, and also met parents from there. It was particularly helpful for me to meet moms of parents of teenage children on the spectrum. I have little kids, and my friends that I know some people with kids on the spectrum, but they're all little kids, and meeting parents of teenage boys was really eye-opening to me, because it made clear for me that when you have somebody who looks like a man, it's a just much more dangerous situation when they're out in the world, and maybe behaving strangely, but they look like a man, you know, people aren't going to give them the kind of leeway they give to a little boy.
Yeah.
And so I think that brought home the deep danger, you know, that Christopher's in on his trip and in the world. And I agree with you about rehearsing and performing. I also felt like during performance is when I began to feel like I could really inhabit the role, because there are just so many technical requirements that take a long time to become second nature. And only once they become part of your body can you feel, you know, that you can, I don't know, really be the person or I don't know, like have the slight leeway in these moments to, like you say, make it your own. So it was an interesting process that way, and I'm sure we all have had similar journeys.
Yeah, I devoured as much information as I could early, like reading a lot of different books, and all the information that we were given in rehearsal. And then I kind of have to start whittling that away once we're up on our feet, and then just hope what needs to stick sticks, because there's too many other things to be thinking about in this play during rehearsal. And then just hope that stays with me, and then plow on.
Yeah.
My turn.
Yes.
I guess I did. There's a lot of, like, because of the physicality, I did like a lot of like physical training for that. But also just a lot of boot camp. a lot of like trying to find books that were written from like their viewpoint, and how, like, stories from like their life growing up and how they dealt with it, and also like going to CUSAC and seeing these guys who are teenagers and seeing that they're typical teenagers. I think that helped me a lot, is just realizing that Christopher's really a typical like 15-year-old boy with just some certain like social things that another thing I had to like learn about, and really just as much information, like, let that inform even the physical things. And yeah, just finding, like, you know, finding those, you know, it's with anything really, it's like finding that heart, that, you know, to make it personal, and that thing that like and they find that in performance and rehearsal. So yeah.
And waxing your chests.
And waxing
A constant battle.
It's your turn, New York.
All right, Bag.
Oh, do we pull out these big questions?
Simon question.
I'm avoiding those right now. What 3 words would you use to describe your character, and why? Confident, resilient, and genius.
Yeah.
The same. Exactly.
I would say tough, loving, and struggling.
Loving, flawed, and persistent.
I would say loving, flawed, and persistent.
The reason why we got cast.
We need to, yeah. No, loving, determined, and forthright.
Strong, determined, independent. Although he is so dependent on others for many things, there's a real man on a mission thing, which is one of my favorite qualities in him.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. That's pretty. That's how many adjectives is that in total? 15. 15 good adjectives.
Yeah.
All very positive, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alcoholic, violent, irritating. Okay. What audience response to your character been like? Nick Tennant.
The audience response. I think they go through a bit of a journey with Ed, because they don't like me when I hit Christopher. And the scene after that, when they come on, we can see the first couple of rows in our auditorium quite clearly. You can see they don't like me at all then. And I think they learn some sympathy towards him at the end. So I think they get the struggle, but it's quite nice that in the first half, I don't think they can work him out at all, really.
At the end of Act 1.
At the end of Act 1.
Is huge.
Yeah, they do. So I think it depends on them. We had two women, a couple rather, in the pub after the play once, who came up to us, and the guy said, "You won. You definitely won. She won't have it. But I keep telling her you won."
Wow.
So they were having it out between them, this couple. So I think people take sides, and without it being too gender related, I think the men relate to him a lot more. That's a bit of a roundabout answer without. Yeah,
Can we break the form and get Andrew to answer from that question, or the new audience's reaction
to your character?
Oh. Well, most of them I've seen afterwards, and it's been quite warm from them, and the ones that have really rocked me have been parents of children in the spectrum. You know, like they've said, I have an autistic child. Usually they stay away from me. They're like 6 feet away, and they just say, like, "You got it right," and I get a thumbs up. They shout over the top of the autograph hounds. Yeah. The ones that have startled me have been the parents. But yeah, you can feel them turn once he's violent towards Christopher.
Yeah.
They're really in love with that child by that point in the play, and it's quite jarring. So yeah, you feel it. Their backbone gets steely towards him.
Yeah.
Do you Tyler, think Tyler and Sean, the audiences do anything other than love Christopher?
It's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think that they. Go on, you go ahead.
Tyler, go Tyler.
I was just gonna say, I love the end. Sometimes you can hear a little, for the last question of the play, you hear little whispers. Yes. It's like my favorite.
I do think that there's not particularly sympathising with the parents, because Christopher can be very, very hard work. But I don't think at any point they turn against him, because they just root for him.
Christopher starts the fight, right? Christopher bites his dad.
Well, he does start it, but I think people can understand the reasons why he's started it. So I don't think they turn on him for that. And if anything, it helps them sympathise with. Ed.
Enid, with the mom.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. Mostly, I feel people really sympathize with my character, but occasionally, I come across someone who, just thinks I'm the worst mother in the world. It always surprises me, because I just am so on Judy's side, absolutely, and see, how hard it is to be her. And so when someone has that reaction, it always, kind of knocks me back a little. I feel like it tells me a little bit more about them. but mostly I think people get it, how hard it is.
Mm-hmm. I had a friend of mine who totally identified with Ed, and he came up to me afterwards. He goes, that scene when you're yelling at Judy, that should have been in the light, man. That should have been in the light.
That's funny. Simon, we have a question for you.
Excellent.
It's on a bigger piece of paper.
Very short-sighted.
What's it like seeing different actors play these roles?
It's completely wonderful. It's completely wonderful. Whenever I write a character, I never really see an imaginary character in my mind's eye. For me, a character only really takes on a visual appearance as soon as that character is cast. And as soon as the character is cast, he or she looks absolutely like the actor playing the character. It's not that why we go into casting saying, oh, they've got to be taller, or they've got to be shorter, or they've got to have a certain colour hair, or have a certain physique. As soon as an actor manifests the character, they become the character. And the joy of having three versions of Marianne's production running simultaneously. We've got 3 brilliant Christophers, 6 brilliant Christophers actually, because there's 2 Christophers in each production. 3 brilliant Eds. All the characters are completely wonderful. It's like a fantasy football league for playwrights. It's really joyful. And I learn so much about the play from what actors bring to it. I learn more about my own writing from actors than I learn from anybody else. It's a privilege, actually.
Yeah, I've learned just listen to Sean talk.
I was thinking we should do it because it's amazing having, especially having 2 Christophers and 2 Eds in this conversation. Yeah. I do think we should do some kind of swap exchange thing where you get to have a holiday in London and can play Ed for a week.
That was fun.
Yes, please.
So great. So great.
As long as we get to leave the kids. Right?
Have we got time for another question?
Do we? Should I ask another one of you? We already talked about audience reactions though. I'll choose another question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Should I ask that one?
You could, yeah.
It's a short question. No, sorry.
No, you're an editor.
Oh, okay, we've got one.
We got a good one.
Okay. Do you have any backstage rituals?
I'm always like 10 minutes before places backstage, just like sitting in the dark, just to like, I don't know, just to sit there and I guess hear the audience that's already there and just get like focused, and that's really my ritual.
That's exactly what I do. There's a little A event backstage on stage left that I kind of nestle into for about 15 minutes. Sometimes I listen to some music, sometimes I don't. And I literally just sit there from the quarter until literally the music starts, and then Pearl and Stephen walk on, and then just before I do, I have a little fidgety thing where I just check that all my props are walk on. 15, well, if we go late, I can often sit there for sometimes like 20, 25 minutes.
It's amazing. We have the same ritual.
Yeah. I think you just need, I don't know about you, Tyler, but you just feel like you need that time to almost make space for all the thoughts that Christopher needs.
Oh, for sure. Just to like forget about other things and then just like, just to focus, just like to get into the mind.
Everyone stage left in our production hugs one another, which isn't really preparing for the play. It does prepare the ensemble.
Oh yeah.
Which I enjoy a lot. And it's bad mojo if we miss anybody, so we actually seek them out if they're late for places. Yeah.
Enid?
Except for killing the chickens, I don't do anything. No. I think this play this play makes everybody a little OCD, obsessive compulsive. So I find that I do things very much the same backstage. I like to stand in the same spot or check in with the same person. I try not to let myself get too crazy that way, but I do find that I do like to repeat myself there. So
I'm obsessed if your box is a quarter inch off.
You have one?
No, only that I pace around a lot backstage, in the wing, up and down, up and down. So I must walk for miles. I think.
No, we're probably the quietest.
Yeah, we're the quietest. It's quite, you know.
Yeah.
I don't really like to talk to anyone, and I just pace something down. And my favourite bit is when just after the fight, coming off, because the wings are really quiet there, and there's no one around, and you're just waiting to go back in for the scene with the rain, and it's just really quiet. And I like that quiet, just hearing the play and no one being there. I always look forward to that moment.
We don't have quiet backstage. There's a lot of, it's not very large, so there's a lot of activity all the time.
Oh, okay.
Week out, solitude.
It's true. So I think we have to wrap up. It was nice talking to you guys.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. You know, see you soon, guys.
Yeah, it was a great show.
Yeah.
You're doing it soon.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll get to come over there and swap places sometimes.
Good idea.
Well, thank you very much.
Guys.
Curious Incident, everybody.
Yeah.
Boston, come see us.
Great to see you all.
Yeah.